and I was ready to start some kind of diet, and I wanted it to be more sustainable. And my brother at the time was doing a weightlifter's diet. And he goes, why don't you try this? You can do high protein, low fat, moderate carbohydrates. So I did that diet for like 13, 14 months. And it was miserable. It was the most depressed I'd ever been, but it could have been everything. I don't know. It was just terrible. I had no energy. And after 13 months, I'd lost, or 14 months, I'd lost 37 pounds and felt miserable. And I knew I was about to fall off the wagon again. And I just made myself promise that this time I was not quitting no matter what. And so I was just trying to keep myself from falling off the wagon. And I couldn't eat any more dry chicken breasts, man. That was what I was eating all the time, was these dry chicken breasts, and it was just miserable. So I looked up, how can I cook these chicken breasts better so they're not so dry and miserable, because you can't use rubs and all this stuff. So I found sous vide cooking. And when I was trying to learn how to sous vide, I was watching all these videos of these guys doing these ribeyes. So I told myself, all right, I'm not going to fall off the wagon, but I am going to have a cheat day. And when that sous vide machine gets here, before I cook one more piece of dry chicken, I'm going to cook one ribeye just like those videos I was watching. And my sous vide machine got here, and I went and it was funny. I said I was going to have one cheat day, but I bought 4 ribeyes when I was at the store. And so
a ribeye on the diet the weightlifter's diet that you were doing, ribeye was not part of that because it was fatty.
Too fatty, too much salt, too much fat. Like, I wasn't eating salt, I wasn't eating fat, I was eating lean protein, egg whites, and brown rice and turkey sausage was like my whole existence there for 14 months.
I find that interesting only because I know, and I've seen studies, and I've heard Dr. Bickman and others talk about studies with bodybuilders and weightlifters who get way better results with protein and fat than with protein alone. And there's actually been several studies. So I find that interesting. He was on a weightlifter's diet.
He was following Frank Zane. I don't know if you know who Frank Zane is, but he became Mr. Olympian against Arnold Schwarzenegger even back like in the 70s. So this was old school, high carbohydrates, low fat, high protein, old school. So that's what my brother was following. And Frank Zane, like one of his famous quotes is, "You just have to get used to being hungry," is what he says. Just stay lean.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so
get real.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that's what I was going after. I found these ribeyes.
Gotcha. So you thought you were cheating. You thought you were cheating on your diet with these ribeyes, and then you started eating them.
Yeah, and I ate one ribeye one day, and I kid you not, I'd felt better that day and happier, and it was like fog lifted from my mind. Some of the depression, anxiety lift, and I just was happy for like the first time in a long time. And it wasn't like overjoyed, but it was just some relief. I felt it immediately within an hour of eating those ribeyes. And it felt so good that I started reasoning with myself. And I said, you know what? This might be too high a fat, but at least if I only eat once a day, because before I was eating twice a day, I was having egg whites and turkey sausage in the morning, and I was having chicken breast and brown rice and protein powder at night. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, all right, maybe I'm getting too much fat, but if I cut out the carbohydrates, I can balance out the calories at least. So I'm getting the protein that I need. I'm not getting the carbohydrates. I'm having too much fat, but at least the calories and the protein are in line. And I'll just eat once a day, because that I had to do that to keep the calories at bay. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of playing with it, and I'm like, I'm just going to do this. And I did that for 4 days, and I ate those ribeyes for 4 days. At the end of 4 days, I fallen into ketosis because I was really close on that protein diet. I was just eating just too many carbohydrates in the rice. Mm-hmm. So I was actually very primed to go into ketosis at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I went into ketosis really fast, and I started getting rid of fluid, and I started peeing a bunch. And so you got to realize that in that 14 months, I'd only lost 37 pounds. Now in this last 4 days, I felt better, happier, more energy, stronger. And I lost 13 pounds in 4 days of fluid, obviously. Wow. But I was like, so I'd never heard, I'd heard of Atkins, but that was a taboo diet. You didn't do it unless you're an idiot and you're going to kill yourself and all that.
When did you hear about Atkins?
my dad was always reading books. My dad was always trying to help us, and he had diabetes. And so, he was reading those books like Atkins stuff and about eating right for your blood type and all those books. My dad was always trying something,
Oh,
and
so
he was,
early 2000s.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember when Atkins
Mhm. I was
first
gonna say,
came
so
out.
really, you heard about ketogenic living many years before. You just
For
didn't
sure.
take it seriously.
Yeah, I didn't take it seriously because that, according to my doctors and according to my
Right.
dietitians, that was craziness.
Me too.
And
Me too. I found out about it in like around 2001 or 2002, and I thought the exact same thing, and I poo-pooed it and didn't
yeah,
take it seriously. I
but
understand.
that was just Atkins. So I'd never heard the term keto. I'd never heard the
Right,
term
right,
keto
right, right.
until after those 4 days of eating ribeyes. I finally Googled it and I said, I put in Google, I'm eating ribeye. Why does eating ribeyes and butter make me feel so good? And that's what I put in there.
Right.
And this guy named Dr. Darren Schmidt at Ann Arbor, Michigan, who's got a channel on YouTube, popped up and he started talking about candidus and keto. And so I started listening to that and it started making so much sense to me. And it was something that it was a view that I'd never seen before. And it was something I'd never tried before. But even more so, it was something that I was currently experiencing that was having real effects on me that I could take. The doctors were telling me all this stuff that I'm supposed to do this and X, Y, and Z is going to happen, but it never happened and it never felt that way. And there was never any positive feedback from it. I was never getting the results and it was never good. It was always a negative thing because I was always hungry, lower on energy, more depressed, more full of anxiety, and it was just misery. Where they're saying that this is a healthy diet, and I just experienced it, and it seemed so sustainable, and I was so happy. I'm like, I was all in on keto at that point. I'm like, that's it. I'm doing this. Like, this is my
Well,
new thing.
I have to say that I wouldn't trust anybody from Ann Arbor, Michigan, ever. But I'm glad it worked out for you. But anyway, I digress. So that is fantastic. So you made a Google search after eating these fatty meats for a few days. You found this doctor. You started listening to him, and you realized that you were onto something.
I did. Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
awesome.
unfortunately, I should have just kept eating ribeyes and I would have been fine.
Yeah,
But I was all in on keto now, and I was the keto mascot at that point because I was
mhm,
all about it. And I read every article and every recipe, and I signed up to every Facebook group and all
mhm.
the, YouTube channels. And that led me astray because then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I can make, keto pizzas, keto chaffles, keto
Yeah,
muffins. I
yeah,
can go
yeah,
get, the Atkins bars, the protein bars, the fat
yeah.
bomb, you know.
To me, in my way of thinking, if I trade, pizza for keto pizza or ice cream for keto ice cream, in my mind anyway, and I know I'm a weirdo, I haven't changed my life.
Right.
I haven't made that, you're just, I don't know how to describe it, just my mental process. So when I went into this, I have never purchased a keto anything. Not a treat, not a hot dog, not a bun, I've never bought a piece of keto candy. I've never If I want a hot dog, I'm gonna eat a hot dog, a real one. If I want cookies, I'm gonna eat it. But I've gotten to myself to a place where I don't really want that stuff anymore. Not with any
Oh,
real. It's not my normal. Here and there, of course, I do some things. It's well documented.
right.
Um, but on a daily basis, my 90% of the time, I just don't. I've got a new life now. I just everything is different. So,
I
but I
feel
got
you there
so
now.
yeah, you went on the keto, got on the keto thing and started just knocking down every keto, anything that had keto on it, you were all about it. No
Right.
matter
Because, in my mind at the time, right, I'd been this guy that was doing these extreme things and they
yeah,
weren't sustainable. So in my mind, I thought, okay, well, here's a way that I could sustain it. Because if I can eat the normal things but make them keto, then
yeah,
somehow that's going to be sustainable. I went down this rabbit hole. I went on and off keto twice
yeah,
and went back on kind of a third time, and because I kept, that kept derailing me, right? Like I'd go, okay, I'm going to do keto. Then I was real strict, and then that would go astray because you'd start doubling down on these bad things. They were just easier to eat. You liked them better, whatever. And then you're out of ketosis. And then all of a sudden I'm ordering DoorDash and eating crap again.
Right. Right.
So anyhow, I did that twice. And then I read a book from Dr. Jason Fung talking about, it's called The Diabetes Code, talking about insulin resistance and your fasting insulin set point. So I decided, all right, I'm going on keto, but this time I backed into my extreme mode and I decided I was going to do a 40-day water fast to try to lower my fasted insulin levels. So I decided to do a 40-day water fast. I wish I would have read more about electrolytes and everything, but I didn't. So I made it to day 21 and I got real sick because my potassium got dangerously low.
Yeah.
And I caught COVID. And when I caught COVID, it got real bad real quick and it went straight to my lungs. I got a real bad pneumonia and it scarred up my lungs real bad and it damaged my heart a little bit. And I ended up having congestive heart failure. And at this time, I think I was right around 600 pounds. And so when I was fighting my way through COVID, I started gaining fluid. I got a bunch of lymphedema, congestive heart failure, and I gained 84 pounds of fluid in 3 weeks. I blew up like a water balloon. And that's kind of when I was stuck at home. I was stuck in that chair and I was fighting that. And so it took me over a year to fight through that, to get my head back in the game, because I thought that was it. I was like, all right, well, I'm just checking out of here because I'm not making it past this one. And then I had to get my mind right, and I got back to reading my Bible and praying about it, and just got my head right. And then I decided I was going to do keto again, but this time I'd read enough, and I'm like, I'm doing very strict keto. It's all going to be whole food keto, no processed anything. Yeah. And I'm going to get rid of all the diet sodas and all that. And so I decided I'm just going to do taco salads was going to be my thing. I was just going to have, yeah. And so I started on taco salads, and that was on September 28th of 2022. So yesterday was actually my 1-year anniversary on that. So then I started eating steaks and some salmon, but mostly beef steaks on January 1st, 2023. And that's where I went carnivore, and that's when everything changed. Now, the one caveat to that was I was still fighting soda cravings. I was having soda cravings so bad. That was my main go-to my whole life. And now I'm not even having diet soda. So it was brutal. So I like a guy on YouTube here. His name's Dr. Berg. He's a proponent of keto. And he had an idea about making a sparkling lemonade out of volcanic lemon juice, sparkling water, and electrolyte powder. So I did that, and that was the cure to get me. Between that and going full carnivore, whatever those two things did, within 5 to 6 weeks of doing those two things together, everything changed. At the time, my lungs were blown up. I was putting on all this fluid. I was on oxygen 24/7. I was stuck in that chair. I was sleeping in that chair. I was eating in that chair. It was miserable to get to the bathroom. I could only stand up for 90 seconds at a time.
Yeah. So how much did you weigh January when you made the switch over into, basically zero carb living?
At that point, I was too big to be able to weigh, but I believe from how I calculated it was I had to be on carnivore for 4 months to lose enough weight to be able to get on the scale again. And when I did that, my calves went down substantially. I lost enough weight that I could stand and walk and do a lot of things. And I was off the oxygen by that point. So I'd lost a significant amount of weight. And at the time when I finally was able to get on the scale and weigh, I was 647 pounds. But I'd lost a lot of weight over those 4 months. So what I did was I kept track of how much weight I'd lost over the next 5 months. And then I took that average per month and I backtracked, and that's where I came up with 715. But in all reality, I think it was probably quite a bit higher, because you know how much fluid you lose when you first get into ketosis. So I think it was probably 750 or more. But it was brutal. And I was,
Yeah.
it was so bad. I every night I'd wake up gasping for air constantly. And that's why I was sleeping in a chair, because I knew I couldn't lay in a bed
Yeah.
because that would crush me. So I
Yeah.
started sleeping sitting up. But even then, I would wake up gasping for air every night, have these terrible headaches. And, but that's basically what got me on Carnivore, and things turned around so quick. Right now, I'm happy to say, like I told you, since I was 18 and I got pneumonia that one time from breathing that core bond, my lungs then from that day never could get my oxygen saturation over 88. And now here I am 40, and my oxygen saturation with no oxygen is at 96%, just sitting here talking.
I
Like,
love that.
yeah, that is so huge. And I can talk about so many things, about how the depression went away.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much do you weigh now?
Right now I'm at 476 pounds.
Man, yeah, so you've lost, like I said, close to 300 pounds,
yeah, 240s. I mean, from the 715 that I say that it was at, because I feel comfortable there, I'm about 240, but I think it could have been 280 something.
But this message can change your life. This message can save your life. And that's what I always want people to get, is the message. Sure, I'll sing it out. Maybe you come to my channel and laugh and smile and be entertained. But hopefully, man, you'll find one of those doctors, or a doctor, a different one. I don't care where you get the message. I just care that you get the message. Because like I said, it's a life-changing message, a life-saving message. So we'll wrap it up here. Listen, man, I just want to tell you, you are one of the most incredible, amazing people that I've ever met. You are strong, man. You are tough as nails. Stuff you've been through, man, in your life.